blade products. So we have the new form factor MES cards. We have 1 by 16 and 1 by 8 MES slots. We use the same brackets as it's a standard bracket across the blade products. So you would have the option of having 2 MES cards installed here in the bracket. We also use the flexible LOM on this side of our blade over here, which gives you the option of having multiple vendors instead of having an embedded solution. We also have the new GBX connector on the back of the blade here that no longer has the cables that usually stuck out in the way of the MES cards when they were trying to be installed. Let's see. Sitting on the DIM baffle, we have it's a similar type solution to what we had in G7. G7 we had a daughter card sitting on top here. This is for storage card. The difference is it's a new chipset on the card. It's a slightly different form factor. So cards between G7 and Gen 8 are not interchangeable. One of the improvements that we made here, as you can see on the front of the DIM baffle here, you'll see the super cap for the storage card is connected to the DIM baffle. So if I want to remove the DIM baffle, the super cap is removed with it. One of the problems that happened a lot in the field with G7 was that the DIM baffle would be removed with the storage controller still attached, but the super cap was not attached to the DIM baffle. It was still in the server, and we would have the connector for the super cap would be broken off the card, which caused a lot of field replacements. So now when this is removed, it's attached. It all comes out as one unit, which I'm about to show you, but I want to highlight one other thing here. This is important. We have, I believe there's an engineering advisory that's been put out on this for our product. We have this connector right here. Needs to be the first cable that's unplugged whenever you're removing the card from the server. What happens is the tension that's on these cables right here, if you try to unplug these first, it's very likely that your finger will hook against this gray one and it will actually bend the pins here on this connector. So we want this to be the first one that's uninstalled. Then you can remove the 2 data connection cables. Now this whole assembly will lift out. Now you can see here what I was talking about. The super cap is connected to the DIM baffle itself. Underneath the card here is what we call the pass-through card. It basically is just exactly what it is. A pass-through to connect the storage card to the system board. It does have our internal USB 2.0 connector on it to be able to install USB keys or whatever you need to be able to install inside. We are 4 channels, 2 DIMMs per channel. Starting with the white colored DIMM slots is the first that you would populate from the outside of the server going in towards the CPU. Right here is what we call the drive drawer on this product. This is actually a similar setup to G7. Basically, you have a lever on the front, this kind of pink colored lever here. Allows the handle for the drive door to pop out. This gives you have 1 drive here in the front. There's a blank in it right now. This is a hard drive blank. So you have 1 slot right here for the first drive. The drive door itself will physically pull out of the blade while it's installed, while it's running. There's no need for the blade to be shut down or anything like that. The front actually drops down, which allows access to the rear hard drive that's installed. Simply slides it back up, slides it back in, and lock the lever in place. One difference you'll notice here that has to do with the drive door is in the rear we had a different cabling solution. We've gone with a new cabling solution that's more of a standard type cable. In G7 we had a flexible PCB cable back here, and so this allowed us to get higher speeds with less loss with this cable. Let's see. This whole unit, basically this whole unit here, the drive drawer itself, comes out as one unit off the blade. In order to remove this from the blade, there's one additional connector that needs to be unplugged. Thank you. This is the power connector it provides the power to the hard drives. It just has a squeeze lever on it, and the cable unplugs. Once you've done that, there's 2 screws to undo. There's one screw here inside the blade. It's more like a thumb screw, so it just pops up once you've unscrewed it. And then there is a screw. Actually, it's already gone out of this one, but I'll point out where it is. There's a screw right up here in the very front of the blade, in the side. Once you've removed those 2 screws, the whole front of the blade slides forward, and then it just lifts straight up. This is one self-contained piece. Normally, in doing service on this, you wouldn't need to actually access the inside of the drive drawer, any parts inside of there. If there's anything that needs to be looked at or replaced or anything like that, the spares would actually come as one whole piece. As you can see, under the hard drive drawer, we have our 2 CPUs. CPU 1 is in the rear. CPU 2 is in the front. You got clear labels on top of the heat sinks just to make it easier. The heat sinks are slightly different, so the heat sinks are not interchangeable between the 2 slots. Let's see. So back here in the back of the blade, we do also have the micro SD card slot. I believe it supports up to 4 gig right now. Another change that was common between the blades is the front lever here. With G7, we had a vertical lever. It ran up the side of the blade. That would pop out due to the new design of the front of the blades. It requires that we had a smaller lever that was accessible from the front. Oh, minimum configuration for this, you can run 1 CPU, 1 DIMM. You do not need both CPUs installed to access both MES slots. As long as you have 1 CPU in, you can access any of the I/O in the back of the blade.